When you have worked with over 50 telehealth brands, you stop being polite about what it actually takes to survive. Most of the advice out there is either obvious or flat out wrong. So in this video, I'll give you the brutally honest breakdown of all 4 conditions and show you what good actually looks like, starting with number 1. So getting into point number 1, don't start a telehealth brand with less than 100k. And obviously this is not a rule that I would completely agree with 100%, but this is just to explain the scale and the challenge of competing in the space right now. So if you're trying to scale telehealth with 5k or 10k per month, you usually run out of signal before you learn anything useful. The CAC is just too high, the competitors are too strong, and every week funnel steps gets punished. So basically, it's possible to scale, it's possible to be profitable on the front end, but the learning curve and the competition is so high that it is not easy to start with a smaller budget and actually get scaling. So if you're just a generic GLP-1 brand, don't have a specific customer avatar, specific persona, or specific factors that make you stand out from the rest of the crowd, it's going to be extremely hard to compete against the cheaper competitors that have already much more to spend. And here you can see, for example, telehealth CAC, they have been increasing significantly. The overall CAC across the product, digital and BTech sectors jumping by 40 to 60% over the past few years. And this is happening across the industries, including telehealth. And so we recommend having around 30k per month to spend on ads. And you can start with less, obviously, but it is not easy to be able to compete when you don't have a lot of budget. So even if you're bootstrapping, I would recommend, considering that you have at least around 30k per month to play with, to start growing from there. And that's going to be making your journey much more easy because if you're playing with really small budgets, it's going to be hard to find a place where you actually win and when you're actually able to compete against the bigger players. Now, point number 2, you need lifecycle marketing. And if you don't have this, you're not going to make it in telehealth. That's pretty much it. So email marketing, app notifications, SMS marketing, these type of channels, all of the biggest brands have these in place and you're competing with the biggest brands in the world, obviously. So basically, if you don't have this for you, you're not going to be able to compete. Because, for example, if you don't even have the front-end budget that the bigger brands have, where are you going to find your edge? Obviously, lifecycle marketing, it is so effective because you get people to your list and you own that audience. You only pay for the platform prices, but sending more messages for those people, targeting those, retargeting them, converting them, doesn't cost you anything more in the same way as, scaling with ads would cost you much more. So by using these flows like questionnaire abandonment, cross-sell, onboarding, and other lifecycle marketing automations, these can pretty much plug the leaks in your funnel, decrease your CAC, and then build retention, build loyalty, and increase your LTV, and thus making you able to compete with these bigger players. Now, looking at some of these flows, there's welcome flow, which is kind of like pre-questionnaire flow. This flow, in the best way, if you actually build it optimally, can bring back 5-10% of your leads who would have bounced off your site forever, and then you are able to get them to actually start the questionnaire and convert. Questionnaire abandonment itself is a free way to increase your submit rate. The biggest brands are getting up to 30% of their total conversions from recovered parcels, so people dropping off the quiz and then coming back and converting. So this is something that you definitely need to have in place. The most important flow, I would say, in telehealth for front-end acquisition. Then there's cross-sell flows. If you have complementary product categories, you can offer these for people who are already on a treatment. So for example, you can offer NAD for people who are on GLP treatment to increase their energy levels when they are feeling a little bit low on energy. And again, a free way to increase LTV. You have already acquired those patients, so sending messages to them doesn't cost you anything more and might increase your LTV and increase your profitability from there. Onboarding flow for post-purchase side is the most important flow for retention side in telehealth and bring the LTV up, building brand loyalty and so on. And here's an example from what this kind of flow can increase. It's basically the goal is to empower those people, set the expectations correctly, and then give them so much value that they're able to make the best out of their treatment. So for example, like you can download your weight tracking charts in this email. There's some expert tips on how to actually manage your GLP-1 journey. There's time tracking charts and everything. So this kind of stuff that you can give as free value to empower your patients to actually achieve the results that you're desiring and they're desiring to achieve. Win back flow also. So basically, treatment restart within a year and 58% restart within 2. So this is a recent study that I was just reading about. And if you don't have a win back flow in place, these people who have dropped off from your site earlier, they're just gonna go find somebody else and go there. But if you have a win back flow, you're able to get them back to your treatment when they are about to be restarting. And again, this is pretty much free margin for you because you already have those people in your CRM. Sending to them doesn't cost you anything more and you're able to get them back to the treatment. Now, how do you get started? We have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel, so you can go from here. You have access to this board, so you can go from here, you can open my channel and you can browse from there. Or obviously you can just get us to do all of this for you because we're experts on this. So you can find the first link in the description to book your free lifecycle audit and we can go from there. Now, going back to the point number 3. So e-commerce is not the same as telehealth and you cannot use the same e-commerce marketing strategies and expect the same results. Instead, you need need to follow these 2 rules when doing telehealth marketing. Rule number 1, hype-driven copy that works for e-commerce destroys trust in telehealth. This is not exactly, no, so let me explain a little bit more. So, here's 20% off, here's flash sale, act before it's too late. Obviously, those type of marketing principles, marketing psychology principles, urgency, scarcity, they still work, and people care about the pricing, so they still work. But if you look at e-commerce emails, it's a lot about just flash sales and this kind of stuff, only about the offer. For telehealth, you want to lead with the offer still in these kind of cases, but you don't necessarily want to just only talk about the offer, and because people are making a decision to buy a prescription medication, it's about their health. So you also need to be able to make sure that you understand what they're going through, you're able to acknowledge that, you understand that, and then you're able to educate them, explain to them how does the treatment feel, whether it's right for them, and so on. So when you're a premium telehealth brand, imagine if your doctor came up to you and said something like this, unfortunately you've been diagnosed with obesity, but oh boy, do I have the solution for you, etc., etc. Right now we're running a 25% flash sale for GLP-1. So this is not how, healthcare should work. You need to actually lead with like the patient's best interest in mind and whether it's even the right solution for them. So that's what you need to keep in mind when it comes to healthcare marketing. So instead, you need to write something like this. Patients on a GLP-1 plan often tell us fatigue is their biggest challenge around week 6. Their provider put together a note on why that happens and what tends to help. So value-driven, understanding their situation and guiding them through a solution that actually helps them get their health in a better place. So not pushy, not salesy, not peer-driven, but actually value-driven and focusing on the patient's best interests. Now, rule number 2, don't optimize for revenue, optimize for lifetime gross profit. So this ratio here, lifetime gross profit to CAC ratio, is basically lifetime profit to customer acquisition cost ratio, and that's something you need to optimize for. Most e-commerce marketers optimize for immediate revenue. It's all about flexing the flashy case studies and so on. But in telehealth, it's all about optimizing for LTV. So it's not as sexy, but it's what creates long-term profits and enterprise value. And you want to send emails like this, for example, and you also want to optimize your ads not only for the biggest immediate return, but for long-term lifetime gross profit. So this type of emails, let's set you up for success. Actually, like I already showed you, the onboarding emails, how can you get the people to achieve the best results out of the treatment and keep them for longer, retain them, and make them actually succeed with their treatment? That's what telehealth is all about. Point number 4, if you don't build a brand, you lose. Because in 2026, it's no longer just about GLP-1s. Everyone has access to many of the same treatments, and there will always be businesses that beat you on price and distribution. Those are not sustainable grounds for competition because, you have Amazon One Medical offering like 1-hour deliveries and cheapest prices and everything. So you need to actually build a brand. And one example here that I wanted to add here instead, it's not telehealth obviously, but I think it still applies here. The New Balance approach. So just a quick story, the background on this. By 2018, New Balance was falling behind, and then Chris Davis became the CMO of the brand and pretty much turned the tables around. He made a massive shift, which basically changed the company's advertising budget from 70-30 direct response to branding to the opposite. So 70 to branding and then 30 to direct response. So they did this, and obviously the results take some time. They're not immediate, they're long-term play. But by 2025, 5 years after the shift, the revenue of the New Balance had reached a record of 9.2 billion, up 19% year over year, and it was the 5th straight year of double-digit growth. So pretty crazy. And how does this apply for your brand in telehealth potential? Of course, branding is about associating your brand with things your target audience already likes. So make sure you got that down. Hims and Hers, for example, made TV ads communicating that the top of the line healthcare shouldn't be only for the rich. The wealth gap is a health gap. And I'm not going to play these right now, but again, you have access to this board because you're watching this video, so you can go here and play this yourself if you're interested. Rowe hired Serena Williams to represent them. Pairing your brand with the people your audience already likes is something that obviously gives it an obvious boost because people can associate your brand with that person, and that's gonna help you reach the position that you're looking for. And then Keeps basically build its brand with YouTubers and podcasters its audience already liked and listened to. So this is a little bit different approach that not a lot of brands are doing, but they have partnership with podcasts like Theo One and so on. There's a lot of ways you can do this, but these big examples from these big brands are something that I think delivers the point across. So if you're interested in learning more about how the biggest players build brands and operate, here's a video. You have this on the screen right now or in the board here. Click it to see what I learned after analyzing 100 plus biggest telehealth brands, and I'll hope to see you in that one.